outdoor diners, beware. This surveillance video shows what's starting to look like a pattern of armed robberies at outside restaurants. Police are trying to figure out whether the holdups are connected.
So a new disturbing trend in New York's ever-evolving sea of crime has emerged. And even though police have no leads since the crooks targeting these restaurants all escaped on mopeds, this is the type of crime that happens so quickly and is so easy to pull off that experts say it's only going to get worse.
The thieves are demanding watches, wallets, and cell phones.
Jesus. The video we're talking about shows men moving around a dining table and scaring people.
Investigators say one of them had a gun, another had a knife. Police say they got away with $200 in cash from the register and 5 iPhones from customers.
Bro, what's crazy about this is, like, they're not even trying to hide their fucking face. He's just like, yeah, it's me. Yeah.
iPhones from customers.
They're using crimes of opportunity where they're just basically grabbing purses or handbags off chairs and running out.
Surveillance video shows a man toting a gun. He's demanding customers here to hand over their watches and wallets. Detectives are now looking into whether or not the same men robbed customers at Carbone in Lower Manhattan.
Is there one thing in particular that you think is leading to this?
Well, it's a lot of things. It's a lot of the laws that have been passed that have basically tied the hands of the police.
Officers are
what?
Now required to record the race, age, and gender of anyone they approach.
It slows officers.
Why? That's so stupid. Who does this?
Down from going to a scene immediately.
Overall robberies are up 5% citywide compared to the same time frame last June.
Oh my God. These are not targeting New York City's restaurants. Yeah.
If you go out to eat in this city, your waiter might be replaced with a robber. Now, the police say they're not sure if these incidents are related, but what nobody's talking about is that all of these incidents are related to the fact that this city does not punish crime. And here, if you steal under $1,000 worth of stuff from any store in town, you'll suffer no consequences because that's...
Why? Why not just put him in jail? I don't even understand this. It doesn't make sense. Why would you... It's so easy. There's no space, then make another jail. But Asmon, they're people? No, they're not. They're thieves. No, there's no way you don't put up. We can't put up with this. How do you let this happen? How do people vote for this?
Misdemeanor, which has created a huge problem because for the last year, stores like Macy's have been getting robbed regularly, which is why...
if you're down bad so much that you are stealing out of Macy's, bro, this is like, you know, they have these at Walmart for like fucking a hair dye. Nobody voted for this? Well, they need to vote whoever voted for it in or out.
Getting robbed regularly, which is why everything inside is now chained to the store itself. And what this means is thieves need easier targets to steal from.
Yeah.
And our money-hungry crooks, they're not looking at stores anymore. Oh no, now they're setting their sights upon the rest of us as we chow down on bagels in the middle of the West Village. Because our phones, wallets, and handbags make us walking dollar signs to these thieves, who might even...
Can you carry a gun in New York? No, why not? Because I feel like that's what they should do. Just let people carry a gun. Then somebody tries to rob them, just shoot them. What's the problem? Legally is a different question. Yeah, I feel like this probably isn't going to happen somewhere in Texas. It's a lot less likely to happen. Then criminals would have guns. They already have guns. Didn't you see the video? They're already using the guns. This is amazing.
Lurking among us as if they're just regular people.
Yeah.
Not just at restaurants, but also at the grocery store or even on the subway, which itself is no stranger to violence and crime, and now looks more like a military occupation zone because of the high levels of police doing bag checks and the presence of the National Guard. Which brings us to the real...
See, that's smart. That's what they should do. Yep, that's right.
Reason why we've now got a crime wave above ground targeting restaurants just like this. There simply aren't enough police to keep us all safe at once. In fact, New York City right now has as many police as it did back in the 90s, but the population of the city has grown by...
Oh my God, this guy. They're not even doing anything. There's just a lot of people that are standing around, and the police officer is like, all right, one of you is getting arrested. Who's it gonna be? Come on, I know there's a reason for, like, who's off parole, somebody's got a gun, drugs. Come on, let's get this done. I got a quota. Just come on forward, yep.
over 1 million people since then, which is a recipe for perpetual crime. Because when all the crime underground started, every available resource was sent down there to stop it, leaving all of us up here utterly defenseless, easy pickings for criminals who can steal everything we have in seconds.
Well, I mean, the reason why they're defenseless is because they can't carry a gun. Like, that's the reason why it's happening. What are we talking about? Like, yeah, you don't say. Yeah, it's not even a question. Yeah, exactly. But guns kill people? That's the point. Duh. You can carry, you just need a license? Oh, okay. Well, as long as you can carry, that's a good idea.
So here we are at Carbone, a famous restaurant in New York's West Village where thugs recently targeted its patrons who were eating outside. Now, this place has a high-end reputation. It was started in 2013.
I'm sick of this. I'm gonna look it up. Can you carry a gun in public in New York City? Okay. So here we go. All right, now we actually know what's happening. New York prohibits the possession of a loaded handgun outside of the home or place of business without a license. Concealed carry is only legal with a New York pistol license. 16 hours of classroom training. So you can with a license. The Supreme Court ruled on New York City because the way they were not giving out licenses. Wow. Well, I guess now it makes sense.
Celebrities eat here, and a USDA prime porterhouse for two will set you back almost $300. And that's what makes this place an attractive destination for criminals, because they know everyone eating here can afford the food and is probably also dressed to impress.
The video we're talking about shows men moving around a dining table outside, and apparently they're demanding cash, they're demanding wallets.
Detectives are now looking into whether or not the same men robbed customers at Carbone in Lower Manhattan.
Jesus.
Allegedly stealing a $100,000 watch. Police believe this could...
So this span of robberies has happened over the last couple of weeks. And before we get into the details of how these criminals operate, as well as the testimony from terrified patrons of all of these places, it's important to understand the one thing in common they all have. First, these are popular places to eat. In fact, so many people want to eat at them that not everybody can fit inside the restaurant. That's why you have these massive outdoor dining sheds.
Well, it's like, no, people do this in games, right? It's like you go outside a dungeon and you farm the mobs outside the dungeon if you don't have a raid. Like, no, I mean, I get how it happens. Like, it makes sense. Like, and it's smart. Right? No, that's smart. People did this in Scarlet Monastery. Yeah, exactly. So because there's like only one of them. They're not as high level. That you don't have to go inside there. Yeah, no, of course.
The one behind me that is pretty much a restaurant in and of itself. Look, it's got air conditioners and stuff in it, tables inside. The bagel shop down the street has people sitting outside. But the issue is, here you are all by yourself on a public sidewalk in the middle of New York City with no police anywhere in sight. And these restaurants and businesses, they don't have security guards. No, it's just you get your food and you can eat outside if you want to, and that's on you. And this is a safe neighborhood, so it's kind of alarming that incidents like this are taking place here. But once you understand...
Well, that's why it's taking place, because why would you... Like, you don't want to... Why would you want to do it in a PvP area? You want to go to an easy area and just get free loot. Like, if you want $200, do you want to work for it, or do you just want somebody to give you $200? I mean, I think they just want $200.
Why these criminals are picking these places out specifically, it'll all make sense. Especially when you realize that people eating out in New York City as a big group are utterly distracted and not really thinking about personal safety. But there's a much more frightening reason why criminals are looking to target people specifically on the streets.
Robbery is not on the menu here at
It's easy to get away, yeah.
Sons in Williamsburg, but that's exactly what some outdoor diners got. You can see the customers give up their belongings before the gunman takes off on a scooter.
So New York City has a massive moped problem right now, and the thieves, a team of two, were riding one of these mopeds, which is how they were able to...
See, this wouldn't happen if... See, the thing is that if you were able to shoot them when they ran away, it'd be no problem. That's what you should be able to do. I think if somebody tries to fucking rob you and they try to take your shit, you should be able to shoot them. Absolutely. Yeah, it's like, because that would make it stop.
escape so quickly. Now, the drivers will wait in the street with the engine running just steps away from where people are sitting, and then the passenger gets off. And in the video that we're looking at here, the passenger was the one who had the weapon and who went around to each person at that table and asked for their valuables and then got back on the moped and escaped. Now, observers say restaurant crime has a lot in common with the other types of moped crime we're witnessing, where thugs quickly approach.
You can't shoot someone fleeing? In my opinion, if you're stealing somebody's shit and you're running off with it, and somebody shoots you, nice shot. Got him. Rip Bozo.
Unsuspecting New Yorkers as they're walking down the sidewalk, take a valuable, and then ride off into the night. But you see, that type of crime, it's a crime of opportunity because you have to be on your bike, riding past somebody who looks like someone that you would want to target. But at a restaurant, there's a whole bunch of people sitting outside with their guard down. It's perfect for criminals in a city that's not willing to protect its residents. On top of that, people at a restaurant, they're sitting down, they're on their phone, they can't get up, they can't run away, and they're dressed well most of the time. And no one at any of these places is looking for trouble. And what's sickening about all this is it is the logical progression of unchecked robberies that happen on the street.
Of course this happens,
restaurants aren't even safe places, which is exactly what witnesses of these events are saying on Reddit. This discussion covers all this, which is exactly
gunpoint robbery at Birds of a Feather. Oh my God. Jesus.
what witnesses of these events are saying on Reddit. This discussion covers all the recent restaurant robberies, and one user writes that it all happened so fast, most people weren't even sure what was happening. On top of that, all of these crimes occurred during dining hours, between 6:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. in the evening, which means this crime is different from purse snatchings that happen on sidewalks. These were premeditated attacks, specifically targeting the patrons of expensive, pricey restaurants in expensive, pricey parts of town. The criminals knew what type of customers they were going to encounter in places like this, which is sadly...
Well, yeah, obviously, like, if you're going to go after somebody, you're obviously going to go after the ones that have the most money. Like, if you're one of the robbers, do you want to rob a Gucci store or do you want to rob a thrift store? Fucking duh. Like, of course they're going to do that.
The very reason these places were pre-selected targets. But just as crimes in places like this look like an escalation over previous types of street-related crime, there's a new escalation that has now started happening with the whole restaurant scene, and it's not happening on the street.
The most recent incident happened here at Birds of a Feather about a week ago. This time, two men held up customers dining inside of the restaurant. The men stole cell phones and a watch. Sources tell Pix 11 News.
Look at that. The most recent incident did not happen at a sidewalk seating arrangement. No, it happened inside the restaurant. The thieves just walked in the front door and walked out with everyone's stuff. Which totally makes sense. If you're a criminal and you get away with minor crimes, you're just going to graduate to bigger and better heists. And
well, yeah. I mean, if you can steal $1,000, you're going to try to steal $2,000. And if you can steal $2,000, you're going to try to steal $5,000. Like, duh. Well, of course. You're leveling up,
we're seeing all show the criminals targeting men who have expensive watches. And if you're a thief and you can get your hands on a watch, that's something very small, very pocketable, and very expensive that you can easily resell. Because in this city, we've got as many jewelry exchanges as we have restaurants, and finding a place where you can pawn that thing off won't be a problem. But there's another element to this new pattern of crime that is extremely alarming and makes it something that it's very hard to defend against. Because let's say you're eating over here at this restaurant, or let's say you're inside a nice restaurant. How hard is it to spot someone coming into the restaurant wearing a motorcycle helmet to pick up a delivery order? That is like the most common thing. So these thieves, they can get very close to their intended victims. They can hide in plain sight, blending in with normal...
Well, couldn't they just make it a rule that you can't go inside of the building with any sort of a helmet on at all? Like, that's what I would say. Like, yeah, that's what you do. I mean, it's not even a question, like, any face covering at all.
Restaurant traffic. They're not even patrons at the restaurant. They just show up with their motorcycle
gear. And I know that they wouldn't follow it, right? But that's the point. So, like, if you see somebody coming in there, you know automatically, oh, fuck, this is somebody who's not willing to follow the rules. You see what I'm saying?
like every other delivery driver, and no one blinks. And this gives thieves who are riding an e-bike or a moped the opportunity to hide and bide their time until the exact moment presents itself for them to commit a crime. And even though most restaurants in town have security, how good are these cameras going to be when the thief is wearing a helmet and you can't see their face? And it's incredibly frightening to think that the next time you're having a meal anywhere in New York City, you could be being cased and spied on as you chow down. But there is something the city could do if it really wanted to take this issue seriously and really wanted to put a stop to it. But as you're about to see, the solution to all of this is so logical and so straightforward that it's never gonna happen in this city, and that's something that should not only disappoint all of us, but should frighten us.
What is it?
Because we're all targets.
What's the solution? More police? Yeah, probably. Weren't these the same police that tried to, like, detain some guy from AMP and take pictures next to his Lamborghini? Wasn't this in New York City too? Yeah, see, they're busy. They're busy, bro. They gotta take pictures next to cars.
Here we have Ye Old Police Department. This is the Greenwich precinct, which is responsible for protecting people who were at that restaurant Carbone over in the West Village, but it's about a 15-minute walk. And the sad truth is that New York City just doesn't have enough police to keep everyone safe at once, especially with crime waves taking place in multiple places across the city at the exact same time. Which isn't the kind of thing that matters to anybody until the watch off your wrist is taken when you're out to dinner and you still have to pay the tab because the food ain't free.
We have a staffing crisis going on in the NYPD right now. We lost nearly 3,000 police officers last year to just retirements, police officers leaving the department. Also, we're losing an average of over 200 police officers a month. So by the time we get to
that is absolutely crazy. 200 officers leave the police department every single month. And not only does the police department here have monumental tasks in front of it, this attitude of defunding the police is still with us today. And that's why the numbers in the department...
Defunding the fucking police. Oh my god. Oh boy, here we go.
Department itself are declining, and they're declining at a rate that is so fast we aren't able to replenish the department with new recruits. And to make matters worse, we're losing experienced veteran officers, which means not only is our police department shrinking at a time when New Yorkers need it most with all of these simultaneous crime waves going on, the experience of the department is decreasing, which some say means its effectiveness is also going to decrease.
Well, of course, yeah, if you work somewhere 20 years, you know kind of like what's going to happen. Whereas if you're new, you're not going to have that same type of insight. I mean, that's common sense, man. Yeah, the experience is dropping. Yeah, that's the way it is for anything. There are places that 100% defund our police and it became a hellhole. Yeah, no, I mean, the people that say defund the police usually live in gated communities. The people that are actually in like a lot of these poor communities outside of the ones doing the crime are not defund the policers, okay? Like, they know they need the fucking police. It's always, you know, upper middle class people that think they have some kind of solidarity with, like, poor people, and so they want to take their right to safety away from them. They're like, oh, we're going to try to help you. We're gonna make your life better. You're not going to get arrested anymore by these mean police officers. It's crazy, man. First Amendment auditors going to have a field day? Yeah, I mean... People don't get why we have police. Well, that's because, and the reason why they don't get it is because they live such sheltered, privileged lives that they've never needed police. It's never been a problem. Like, because, you know, for them, they live in a nice place and it's homogenous. There's no issues. Everybody has, you know, is well off. It's all right. And so there's not a lot of crime.
Precincts across the city where we would normally turn out 6 to 8 patrol cars. Right now, we're turning out 2 to 3 patrol cars in those communities on a given tour.
So what does that do to the safety of the community?
Well, I wonder.
The response times continue to rise. That is the reality of policing right now.
Yeah.
So some precincts are down from 8 patrol cars to just 2. That's a 75% reduction in available patrols. How is that not a recipe for more crime in pretty much every area of town? Less police.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I was a criminal, I'd be like, bro, like, new patch. We got a buff. Like, let's go. Let's start farming.
This means response times are going to go through the roof because as crime becomes more common, police are now stuck choosing which incidents to respond to first, meaning your watch getting stolen at a pricey restaurant might come in behind something much more serious. And what's incredibly frightening about this is that our criminals, they're not defunding themselves. No, they're expanding their operations in light of the lax security that happens whenever the police divert resources from one crime wave to try and deal with another. And what makes this even more frightening is the proliferation of weapons. So not only are the thieves becoming more numerous and
New York City migrant shelters under scrutiny after accused cop shooter claims gun smuggling chain. Jesus Christ. Maybe this is a mean thing for me to say, but what the fuck are you doing making migrant shelters if you can't even protect the people with your police? Like, what kind of a priority is that? You've got shelters for migrants and you can't even afford police? How the fuck do you do that? What kind of priorities is that? It's insane.
Emboldened, they're also becoming more heavily armed week by week. And you know how they're smuggling the guns into shelters? They're using delivery bags like this one right here. Apparently the shelters have metal detectors, but they're not actually scanning to see what's coming in the food packages. Does that mean there's a direct connection between all of this crime and the asylum crisis? Well, no, not necessarily, but it does mean there's a direct connection between the apparati that are supposed to keep us safe falling apart and increased crime. And the reason this disaster is unfolding upon us is not only because the police are shorthanded, it's also because our laws force them to fight crime with one hand tied behind their backs. And the latest example of all this is the How Many Stops Act, which is now in effect in New York.
Officers are now required to record the race, age, and gender of anyone they approach.
It slows.
This is really something special, man. This is amazing. Wow.
Officers down from going to a scene immediately. But the other side of it is...
Okay, now critics say that this is essentially a paperwork requirement that slows down law enforcement when we need more law enforcement faster, not less law enforcement slower. But proponents say having police record this information is important to make sure that law enforcement is happening in a fair manner for everyone. Now, whether or not you think...
can't you just do that with a body cam? Like, I mean, I feel like, yeah, it's important to know that, but... Like, if somebody's committing a fucking crime, it doesn't matter what they are. Like, yeah, don't you have a body cam? What the fuck?
This policy's a good idea.
Body cam doesn't capture age? Yeah, but neither can a person. You can't capture somebody's age one-to-one. Like, there's no way.
Besides the point, because in a city with a short-handed police department, you've got to pick and choose what things you have your limited resources do. And the more time police spend using apps on their phones, the less time they have to stop crime. And as we just heard, many departments are short-handed right now, and if they've only got two patrol cars on the street and one of those patrol cars is busy filling out apps on their phone, there won't be enough cops to keep people safe.
Former NYPD Lieutenant Darren Porcher is concerned about delayed response time and the data itself. We reached out to the NYPD for a response. A spokesperson says the department has put in place policies, training, and technology to comply with the law. Officers will be using forms on...
Now, of course, this is just
I mean, here's the thing, though, right? Is like the people in New York probably voted for this, or they voted for the person who voted for this. So, like, at a certain point, I don't really feel that bad for them. Because, like, you wanted this. This is what you get. That's right. It's their fault. Yeah. That's right. I'll do it again. Yeah, you chose this. And so don't go crying about it, because this is what it is. You made it happen. They did it to yourself. Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. Yeah, defund the police. Well, it worked. There you go. Or they're uninformed. Yeah, then they're just stupid. But these people move out, then they vote for the same shit somewhere else. Yeah, I know.
One example of a law that might hamstring police in the event of an emergency. But the thing that's crazy about this is all information, all of this demographic information, it would all be available in the event of an arrest. This applies to people who the police stop in a normal interaction. For example, if the police come out of the bomb squad department over here and they want to talk to me and it's an official stop, they're going to have to put my information to the best of their ability into this new system, which will be publicly available, apparently. But then the question becomes, if I'm not arrested for anything and there's no suspicion of guilt and I haven't committed a crime, what is the ultimate value of that? And there are fears that activists will use that information.
Well, the implication is that the reason why they have it is that there's basically a assumption that people that are minorities and part of others, like protected groups get stopped more often. So I assume that this practice is supposed to like quantify whether that's happening or not. That's clearly why it's happening. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I think that's the reasoning.
To further scrutinize our short-staffed NYPD, which could lead to more investigations that lead to nowhere and more oversight that is unwarranted in a time of increasing crime.
I also worry that there's just a general mentality, a lack of appreciation for police officers.
Well, I think the communities really support the police. It's the politicians that are enacting these laws that tie the hands of the police and put the public and the communities in harm's way.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You don't see this.
So ultimately, there's nothing wrong with the system that increases the transparency at which a public institution like the NYPD does its job. That's a good thing. It will help keep the city safe. But the problem is the resources to do it aren't included with the plan that says it needs to get done. And right now, the police resources that we have are stretched so thin that the moment there's a crime wave in one part of the city, it pulls the resources over here. And then another crime wave pops up over here because the criminals saw an opening. Do you see what's happening? The police are playing whack-a-mole with our crime waves. That's why they're impossible to stamp out. That's why we went from having a crime wave in the subway below where I'm standing to a crime wave up here at our restaurants. And you know what?
I think what that proves, though, is that police presence reduces crime. Because I bet now in the subways, there's a lot less bad shit that's happening. It's because people don't want to fuck around whenever there's 3 police officers standing around. It's a huge deterrent. And I know that people like to act like, oh, no, it's not. People are going to commit crime anyway. No, they won't. Like, trust me. People absolutely, with all crimes, 90%, probably 99% of criminals make they take they make a value judgment. Is it worth it for me to commit this crime? That's why you don't see, like these thugs and these people that are like robbers they're not robbing police officers. Do you want to know why? Because there's a high chance they're not going to win the outcome. They're not just doing this randomly. They're making educated decisions based off of the highest possible opportunity versus the lowest possible risk. The same as anybody would.
Once they get rid of this,
risk-reward assessment.
Crime is going to go right back into the subway. That's exactly what's going to happen. Now, are the police perfect? No, they're not. Do they always do their job fairly? No, but they are the protection that the law-abiding have when we're at a restaurant between us and the criminals who want to ride up on the street on a moped with a weapon and try to take our belongings and possibly harm us. And that's very frightening. It's very frightening to think that we don't have the backs of the people who are supposed to have our backs. What kind of system is that? Of course it's going to be dysfunctional. Of course it's going to lead to crime waves. Is that what's happening? Is that why we've got crime in the city? Let me know. How would you fund the police in New York, or are they funded too heavily? Should we restrict their funding? Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next video.
The problem is that there's a lot of instances of police officers that act unprofessionally, and they don't get disciplined in a way that is comprehensive. Like, people aren't like that mad about it. They don't get pissed off about it that much. It happens all the time. Yeah, right? And so people don't get in trouble, and then guess what happens? Well, then that's like, let's be honest. Then everybody sees that and they say, well, I fucking hate cops, which makes sense, doesn't it? Because like, if you see some cop that's like, for example, I saw a cop, these 2 cops were arresting this black guy and they had his hands behind his back. And one of the cops just like straight up punched him in the face out of fucking nowhere. Let me see if I can find this. Fuck. No, I just tried to search it on YouTube. It seems like it's probably not going to happen. Not YouTube, on Twitter. It seems like it's probably not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to find a clip of it. But yeah, it happens pretty regularly, right? I mean, like, of course, it's not graphic or anything like that. It's just unlawful display of authority. I mean, that's all there is to it. The big guy took a punch like a champ. Yeah, so y'all saw that video, right? Like, am I crazy? Like, y'all saw this video very recently? Excessive force, right? And so it's like, that dude, in my opinion, should be taken off the police force and on trial for assault. It's not even a question. But like the problem is that you have like this weird thing where people act like there's sides to this, where like there's really not. There are police officers that are bad actors, absolutely, but that's not like the norm, right? That's not every single one of them. Which one was this? Yeah, I don't know. Put more checks on that authority and people will be less likely to want to defund them. Yeah, exactly. So like that's the problem, is that there aren't really there's not accountability for like these different guys, and so that's why people hate them. 2 week suspension and pay punishment. Yeah, exactly. There's the video right there. Give it a like. This is I think this is a huge issue. Like I mean, if you don't have police, bro, like that's bad.